So we're on to one of the most enjoyable parts of building a neck now, which is shaping the neck. I'll show you how I do it. I mean, there's lots of different ways, everybody's got their own preferred method, but I'll show you a foolproof way of shaping a neck, at least getting it in the ballpark, and then you can shape it however you like it. So I've just put a couple of marks on the neck, and I'm scribing a centre line down the middle of the neck. So we take a measurement from the first fret and we transfer it around onto the back of the neck, and then we set our calipers to 5mm, and then we mark 5mm that side and 5mm the other side of the neck. So we've got the 12th fret here, and we've scribed a line here which represents the 12th fret. So I've set the calipers to 10mm now, and we'll put a mark either side of the centre line at the 12th fret. Right, the next step is to just scribe a line from this mark here, 5mm out at the first fret. Just line that up at the ruler, and this mark here, which is 10mm at the 12th fret, and just draw a line through like that, and also on the other side. Alright, so it should look like this. You've got your marker there, which represents your first fret, and you have a mark down the other end which represents your 12th fret. So we've measured out 10mm either side of the line there, 5mm either side at the first fret, and then we've just joined the lines up. So the next measurement we're going to take is on the side of the neck. We actually want to mark a line 2/3 of the way up. Okay, so we've got a mark here which is 2/3 of the thickness of the neck. We want to mark it at the other end as well, and we want to follow it through with a ruler. Like so. We've got a line running along here. Now we want to flip the neck over, and we want to do exactly the same on this side as well. Now in terms of working out the transition here, I mean, you can do what you want really. What I tend to do is follow this curve. I extend that through to the center line, like that, and then I'll do a transition up to this curve as well, and just make sure the V is even on both sides, like so. Obviously we're going to soften this. Now if you've got a favourite neck, you can compare it to what's on your favourite neck. Right, so I've measured up 85mm from the end of the neck. Now I'll measure another 35mm on the centre line, and then I'll just run that to our line there. I'll do that each side. So it looks pretty confusing. There's a lot of lines on here that we don't really need anymore. We just needed to get some reference lines on the neck before we start shaping it. So all of these lines back from here we don't really need. All we're interested in is the shape that we're going to file into the heel, and the shape we're going to file into the headstock. So we're at the stage now where we can actually start removing some wood. Now we've got all these marks that we've just put on the guitar neck, and I guess we need to know what to do with them now. So we've got a center line. This whole area either side of the center line that's marked, we don't touch any of that to begin with. All we're interested in is removing a whole chunk of wood that's along here from this outer line all the way through here to this line that we scribed there, which is 2/3 of the thickness. All of that is excess wood that doesn't belong in the neck. So we can be pretty brutal and just hack all of that out with a rasp, any way you want really, and we do the same on the other side as well. So all of that is just excess, and we get rid of it whatever way. I file it out. You can use a dish sander, grinder, whatever you want. Right, so I'll start off with my rasp, and we don't want to go too far up here. Just where this line that marks the first fret, start in that area there. And all we're going to do is sand through to that line and sand through to this line here. So we're just going to take a big chunk out. So as we get closer, I've switched out to a finer, smaller file. Okay, we're pretty close. Alright, so we've got that roughed in. We'll rough in the other side of the neck now. So we've removed it on that side there, and we've stayed on the line, we've stayed on the line there, and we've done the same on the other side. Now we can clean this area up here. I won't do that yet. What I'll do is I'll continue to sand this away all the way down until we get down to this area here, and then I'll also do the other side. So basically all we're doing is removing all the excess material at the moment. So that's pretty much the first stage, the really roughing out stage of the neck. I've filed pretty much to the line all the way up, except around the transitions around the heel. I've left a little bit of meat there, and I haven't touched the headstock yet. So I'll grab a couple of smaller files and I'll start forming that in now. So what we're doing is it's called faceting, and it involves just taking slices off the neck. We're going to do another slice here, we're going to do another slice there, and eventually you've almost got a round shape on the neck, and then you can just round it over and shape it to however you want it to be. So the next facet we're going to do is the one in the middle of the neck. We've got the center line that we drew, and then we've got these lines either side. So our next facet is going to be cutting at an angle here, and we're cutting almost to the center line there. So we're going to create another angle down here, almost hexagonal, and then we're going to do the same on the other side as well. So we've taken that almost to the line along there. We'll just go easy into the headstock. We'll really worry about that towards the end of shaping the neck. I just want to get this next facet done. Okay, that's the next facet that's just been cut. So now we've formed a facet there as well. We won't worry about that yet, but eventually we'll round that one over. Alright, so we have the original facet along here, and along here, and then we've got the new facet that we've just put in using the lines that we marked on the neck, and we have another facet along here. So we've got a number of different facets that we can keep taking the edges off. I mean, we virtually have a round neck there now. I mean, if you round it over with a file and you take some measurements, sand it down to the thickness that you're after at either end, and then blend it together, you've virtually got a neck that's done. Now, there's a facet here as well. This original edge along here where we drew the pencil line, that's another facet that we can round over. We can start blending that into the edge. So I'm just rounding this all over now. Just getting rid of that facet. And then gradually starting to blend it all in. And we've still got the middle section here that's untouched at this point. Now, I want the neck to be relatively fat, so I'm not going to take a lot of meat off the back of the neck. It's pretty much just going to be a case of blending this in here, rounding this over, and then blending this in here as well. So I'll start rounding this section over now. Alright, so we've got the neck pretty much roughed in. And now I'm just going to blend this heel section in. I'll just show you the files I was using for shaping the neck. These are, I think they're called Dragon Rasps from StewMac. So I've got the two large ones, I've got a coarse one, and I've got a fine one. The coarse one's great for just digging into a neck and removing wood quickly. And then they've got the fine one, if you're getting close to a line, you want to slow down a little bit, remove less wood. And then I've got a smaller version of both of those too, which are great for getting in around the contours around the neck and around the heel. And then I've got this old file that I've had forever, and it's got a finer cut than any of these files. So I tend to finish up all the contours. I can remove a lot of the scratch marks that I get from those with this file here. So I'll finish off with this, and then I'll use a scraper. Something like that. Certainly something like this is great for shaping down the neck. You've already got a round contour there. That'll pick up any high spots as you're scraping, and you can use the side for cleaning up the edges down by the fretboard where the dot markers are. So you can't go wrong with something like that as well. Alright, so this is roughed in now. I've pretty much done the transition here, and I've done it there. It's not all sanded smooth, but it's got file marks all over it. But I'm going to leave it at that stage now. I just wanted to show you a couple of different things you can do. Now something like this, which is a contour gauge, is also really handy if you're trying to copy a neck that you already have that you like. You can take a contour at, say, the 1st, the 5th and the 12th fret, and you can compare it to the contour on the neck you're doing. You can see you know, whether you need to take some more off the sides or off the top, or whatever the case may be. And to use a contour gauge, it's just a matter of placing it at the, say, the 1st fret, and you just push it down like so, and it gives you a contour. You can go to the neck that you're copying, you get a contour of that neck, and then you can make a comparison, something like that. So you've got the neck you're working on and the neck you're trying to copy. Now another thing you want to keep checking as you're shaping the neck is that you're shaping it straight, nice and flat. You want to make sure you've got no dips or valleys, and if you do, I mean, something like this, which is the 300mm ruler, fits perfectly in between the headstock and the heel. So if you see a high spot, you'll just mark it and sand it down, and then check again, and you keep doing that until you eliminate all of the high spots. Now I'm not going to go any further with this. I would normally have drilled the tuner holes out by now, but I was waiting on a shipment from StewMac, so I didn't actually have the tuners to put in. So I'd never drill for tuners without actually having the tuners on hand. I got a shipment yesterday from StewMac, so we now have the tuners, so we'll put them in now. Right, as I mentioned before, there's no point me finish sanding the neck at this point. I've still got to drill the tuners and I've still got to fret the neck. So I'm going to do both of those things first, and then I can finish the neck up, finish sand it, finish shaping it, and get it ready for spraying. So we've got the tuners here. These are a Kluson style tuner. They're a vintage looking tuner, except they're a locking tuner. So I think they're probably a lot more reliable than the old style tuners, but you still get the vintage look. Now the drill bit's a brad point, so we've got the little spike on the end there. What I'm going to do is pre-drill all of the 6 holes first with a 2mm drill. The reason we do that is this is easier to centre in the hole. Once we've already got the hole drilled by this pin will self-centre itself in that hole, and we'll get a nice even set of tuner holes. And we can do a quick check to make sure that before we go any further that we've got some nice straight holes, and they look fine. Next thing we need to do is thickness the headstock down to 14mm. So I've just marked 14mm on the calipers. So we've marked our thickness on the headstock, and we're going to route down to that depth, which is 14mm, but we also need to be aware of where we need to stop so we can sand the transition in this transition here. Now this is off my spindle sander, and it's the same radius as this neck here. So we need to start the transition just after the 6th tuner, after the low E. So we won't thickness back any further than that line there. What I've done is I've built up 2 rails, and they're stuck down to the table saw, and I've also stuck the neck down. And we're going to finish off with a piece on the back here. Now we have to work out where this sits because we have a line here that we want to finish cutting at with the router. So I need to actually physically put the router on here, move it back and just see where the end of the blade is and then position this accordingly, and I'll tape this down also. So the headstock's now at 14mm and we can sand in the transition now using the spindle sander. So the first thing I want to do is just make sure that everything is nice and square, which it is. Lock it down. So what we're going to do is that's just going to feed through like that, and we'll square this up with a piece of timber, and that will cut the radius into this section here. So I've just used a square and a piece of wood, and I've just moved it along until I've got it relatively square so we're not going in at an angle. So I've got as close as I could with the spindle sander. There's still a little ridge there, but I'll finish that off by hand with some sandpaper wrapped around a piece of dowel. You can see just from a couple of minutes using the dowel we've nearly eliminated this line here, so I'll just keep sanding until that's gone. That shouldn't take much longer. Okay, so that transition's done now and that's sanded out, so we can move on now to installing the tuners. First thing I'm going to do is just slightly ream the top of these holes so the bushing will sit down a little bit and will slide in easier. Now really tapering just the very top of the hole, it's not going very deep at all. So I'll just press each of the bushings in. So what I've done is I've just clamped a ruler. I've lined those up the way I want them to be mounted, and I've just clamped a ruler and butted it right up against the bottom here. So it doesn't matter if these move at this point now. I've got a reference line there, and I'm just going to get a little punch, and I'm just going to start punching where all the screws need to go. I'm just going to do that by hand, and I'll put a pencil into it later. And hold the second tuner down, mark the next hole, and yes, I know I need to buy a new pencil. It's my favourite pencil. It's just about finished. Alright, so I always drill a test hole on a piece of scrap to try the screws out that came with the tuner. So I'm just testing. I've just drilled a 2mm hole, and that seems to be exactly what we're after. I just don't want to put too much pressure on the screw and snap or twist the head off inside the neck. That would be a pretty bad thing to happen right now. And the next thing I want to do is just set a depth gauge on the drill just so we don't drill through the headstock. Okay, that's fine. I'm just going to enlarge the marks that I already have there, so there's something positive for the drill bit to grab onto. Alright, so the tuners are now in. Everything lines up nice and straight. So we can take them back out now. We've got the mounting holes, which is all I wanted to establish. Everything fits fine, everything's nice and straight. So we can move on to the next step. Easy to remove the bushings. You just put a screwdriver in. Just rotate it gently. And they start to lift up.